OCM CIA. We'd like to welcome you to Idle No More Education Forum here at Trinity Western University.
People, which is from Vancouver Island. It's Alert Bay, BC. So you would go over on the ferry, go all the way up, go up past Campbell River and hit Port McNeill, get on the ferry, go across, and there we are. And so we would say, you know, which is good to see you. Yo weeksas, how are you? So I just want to bring greetings to you. And just to say that, you know, I'm so honored that the Kwantlen people were here, because, you know, a lot of times we hear, like on campus here, that this is, originally was a dairy farm, but even before the dairy farm, there were people here, and the Kwantlen people were here, and this was the birthplace of BC, just down the road there, and so, you know, that, you know, this is their traditional territory, and so I just wanted to say thank you for welcoming us here today. I don't know more, it's just touched my heart and my spirit like nothing has in a long time. And I feel like as someone who's worked in Aboriginal community for a number of years, that, you know, as I worked in those communities, you know, one of the things that was so frustrating was, you know, we would try to begin to do something, we'd kind of get a little bit of momentum going, helping with that, you know, young moms, helping with, you know, community health, helping with, you know, all the different aspects of that, you know, that practice that I was involved in. And it was very hard sometimes when we would hit we would hit a brick wall. You know, we would be trying to push forward, and then there would be policies, or there would be political things, and there would be, you know, it would be so frustrating, you know, because my heart would be, you know, these young moms need strollers, these young moms need milk, these young moms need help, they need to learn, they need parenting courses, they need all of these things, and, you know, and it was just so frustrating just to hit those brick walls. And so when I did that to several different, I worked up in Seabird, I worked up in Squaw, worked a little bit in Chiam, I worked in Burrard with the Burrard First Nations, worked in Surrey, in inner city, and so worked with, so I worked in all those different communities, and one of the things that just started to begin to move on my heart was I need to get more educated so that I could help. I need to understand some of the processes that are going on, that I can start to speak at a different level and speak to the issues at a different level. And so God began to speak to my heart, and I just kind of thought, okay, I don't know exactly what it is, but God, you're going to do something in me. And I'm going to open my heart, and I'm going to say whatever it is, I want to be open to whatever it is that you have for me. And so one of my mentors said something to me one time. He says, you know, life is like a puzzle. He says, you're always trying to put things together. And he says some of the clues about that puzzle is that what causes you grief is a clue to what you're called to heal. And I just felt, okay, that's it. You know, I'm already in the nursing profession. I understand about the healing arts a little bit, and plus, you know, the First Nations healing arts as well, and doing some training under our own home medicines as well, because that's very important when you're working with the First Nations peoples, to understand your own home medicines, your own traditional medicines, and you know, what it is that they believe and how they frame health. And so I just kind of wanted to move from you know, so from that frustrating place to, okay, I need to move to find out how I can be part of the answer. And so I arrived on campus and I started my master's degree program, and God began to just even move me even more. I was like, okay, Lord, help me to heal from the past, because I have family that's been in residential school. I got that pain, that historical trauma that is part of my life and is part of a lot of First Nations people's lives. And so I bear the pain of a lot of that. I have a father who was in residential school from Alert Bay, because Alert Bay, the residential school, is still standing there. So he was raped, he was, you know, beaten. He showed us the beating marks on his back, on his legs, you know, showed just a lot of pain. And, you know, and the different punishments for speaking his language. And my mother and my father, they really, you know, were scared that if we went to school and they continued to teach us the language, that we were going to get in trouble. And so they said, don't ever speak the language at school. Don't ever do that. I mean, those are things that they were carrying forward from their pain. And so, you know, all parenting issues, all those different types of things. So there's a lot of things about the past that, you know, you want to understand. So last summer I was in Ottawa, and I grabbed my Bible and I went up there at night and I opened it up and I sat in front of the Parliament buildings, and I was like, okay, you and me, you know, we're gonna have this out. And I had to work with it and allow God to begin to just to go in there and mine out some things, because I didn't know I don't know more was coming. I didn't know all of this was coming, but God knew, and He knew that I had to start to kind of come to peace with certain things so that I could move forward in health and in wellness, and to be able to kind of manage not just reaction, but responding, and responding with thought and with care and with love. And so, you know, during that time, that sort of inner turmoil thing, and not everything was answered, I have to tell you that, not everything was answered, but I just thought, you know, there are some things that I'm brought to that I can heal. There are some things that I have been made for that I can answer. And I go with that purpose, because, you know something, purpose is really important. And I Don't Know More just kind of just breathes in life of purpose. It was birthed out of 4 women who saw the omnibus bills of C-45 and C-38 that were gutting environmental laws to make way for big business. And they were, the bill C-45, the other thing that was very prominent in that piece of legislation was the encroachment of our right and title to have a say in what happens on our traditional territories. And for most of BC is unceded land. We have not said that we have given it over. We have said that we would share. And so when we talk about how, you know, how we came to this place. So anyway, so this bill started to go through, but it has to kind of come back a little. I'm going to go a little bit further back. I don't know, we only have a little bit of time. I'm going to go a little bit further back just for understanding, okay? January 25th, 2012, there was the Crown First Nations meetings. Okay, though at that meeting, our chiefs came back to us and said, okay, Prime Minister Harper has promised some things to us. And one of the things that he's promised to us is that he's not going to mess with our rights. He's not going to mess with those things. You know, I mean, that's just very laid back terminology, okay? I'm not going to go into all the he's a thousand, all that stuff. But that was the understanding, okay? And then to have the bills go through that went through was a slap in the face. Okay, it's going to get our ire up. It's going to get us as, okay, we're going to fight back. Because what it says is that if you can't respect my existence, then expect our resistance. And so we have to fight. We have to. It is our kids. It is health. It is Aboriginal ethics as far as practice is concerned. This affects my practice. I Don't Know More and Bill C-45 and Bill C-38 affects my practice, because if I go onto a community and work in First Nations community and their lands are being ripped up and torn up with regards to business and oil and fracking, I can't go into all of that, but there's damage, environmental damage. So then the game is all lost, okay? Then the food source is contaminated. That food source gets contaminated, and then it goes into human contamination. And how we prove that is through the breast milk. Okay? Breast milk is very important because we want to encourage our young moms as nurses. We want to encourage the young moms to say, you know what, breast is best, yay. You know, but breast is best. But you know, like you know, Chief Spence, you know, how does she fit into all of this? Okay, so she's got, you know, her situation there. There's the De Beers mining way up just down the road from where she's at. Okay, they have spilt sewage into their water system, into their water, the game, everything. So now the nurse in Evidencebased starts to think, you know what, this is not good. I don't know if I want to tell these moms to nurse because of what's happening with big business there and housing, and you know, we can go into the whole thing. But she has a problem now because she no longer can say, okay, it's okay, go ahead, it's absolutely, you know, your game is fine, your water sourcing is fine, your fish is fine, you can feed your baby. You know, it's no problem. But she was pushing, this nurse was pushing to get some money to do a research project to find out if the breast milk was okay, if the breast milk was contaminated. And she kept hitting walls and kept hitting walls. And you know, and then last year, Chief Spence says we need to declare a state of emergency. There's more things going on here than I can even shake a stick at. But then all of this stuff, you know, the money that was going to be lined up for help is gone. Okay, NAHO is now no longer exists. You know, the momentum, the movement towards evidence-based practice, because evidence-based practice is really important because you got to prove your stance. You have to prove, you know, without a doubt what you're saying is true and how you practice. You need to prove it, and that's very much scientific. It's a, you know, proving and proving, proving. And if you don't prove it, then you have no case. So if we have no mechanism to go forward with research, then we have no case to present to the government or to the courts to say, look, we are really in a situation and we need help, and our game and our water source and our food security, all of those things that are important for health is impacted by this big business that's coming through, by fracking, by oil, by industry. You know, it's so crucial. We're in a critical time right now, and with the Bill C-38 gutting the environmental laws the way it has, you know, I can't even imagine 10 years from now what we're going to face on reservations. Because the First Nations people are going to be the first ones that are going to be hit. But it's coming not only to us, it's coming to the other communities. It's not just First Nations, you know, that are going to be impacted. It's all of BC. And, you know, and I thank God to all of those people that stood up and said, no to Enbridge, way to go, everybody. I was like, yeah. You know, because it wasn't just us speaking, it was our brothers and our sisters that were here and saying, no, this is not good for our communities, this is not good for our water sources, this is not good for our game, this is not good for our livelihoods. You know, when you're taking the wisdom, when you're looking at it through wisdom's eyes, you're saying, okay, look, we have, okay, you can have some jobs, you're going to have this business, but then you start to weigh it in wisdom. What's wisdom saying? Not just what big business is saying or what the politicians are saying. What is wisdom saying? Wisdom is saying we need to take a look. We need to take a look back, because you know what? We're not all against big business, but not at all costs. We need to take a look at it with eyes that can see both sides and say, wait a minute, we can't do this, we can't do this. These aquifers cannot be disturbed. These watersheds cannot be disturbed. These fish, these places for salmon spawning cannot be touched. There needs to be that voice. And we are that voice. We are that voice that says no. We are that voice. Idle No More says we will all stand up and we will take our place to say, no, this is not good for our communities. This is not good for our people. This is not good for our generations and for the generations to come. Because when I take a look at my sons, I have 3 sons, and I take a look at their future, this isn't mine, this is theirs. This life that we live, it's theirs. And it's, you know, and I want to be someone that when they look back and I'm dead and gone and they're saying, yeah, Mom stood up. Whatever happened, Mom stood up. Mom believed in something. Mom tried to stop it. You know? And it's not so much the voice of the critics that we're going to remember. It's going to be the silence of our friends. And so it's important for us to remember that, okay, it's not just us and say, oh, what's this First Nations thing? Why are they all upset? It's not just the First Nations. It's all of us. It's all Canada. It's all Canadians. And one of the things that is really, you know, heavy on my heart is that these 4 lawyers, you know, I take my hat off, I honor them, I honor Chief Spence, because they were willing to sacrifice. They were willing to go forward and say, look, we need to have some teach-ins, people need to understand what the issues are, and it's not just all the racist remarks. You know, I haven't faced so much racism in years, but I'm sure been facing it now, you know, and, you know, that's such a cop-out. I'm sorry to say, it is such a cop-out, because it's not about race. Because the treaties were made with the spirit of sharing. We didn't say we were giving the whole thing up. We said we'd share. And part of the spirit of the treaties was not just, you know, you and me. It was like, okay, you are coming onto the lands. You understand how precious this land is to us because we've been taking care of it for thousands of years. You want to come in and share this land with us? From the First Nations perspective, it's okay, let's join together. Let's make promises that we're going to take care of this land. That the responsibility is not only on us, but the responsibility is on you. And so we have to keep that bargain. And so when you say honor the treaties, it is honor the treaties. Because in the spirit that it was given, that the First Nations understand, and that's where the great divide is right now. It's like, okay, well, this is a treaty, and this is what we think the treaties are, and this is what you guys think the treaties are. And so there's a big divide, there's a big chasm happening there. And we want to bring the understanding so that we're all on the same page. A lot of people are saying, what does Idle No More mean? What do they want? It's very diffuse. I can tell you what it means. And it's not diffuse, and we're not confused, and we're not vague. Okay? We're not. The first and foremost that we want, and you can see it plastered all over the slogans and everything, is kill Bill C-45, kill Bill C-38, because then we can start to say, okay, we can come together now, we can start to take a look at what's going on here. But until that really happens, you know, you're going your way and we're at cross purposes. That's the beginning of trying to restore the relationship between Canada and between the First Nations. And but not even just the First Nations, it's actually Canada and the Canadian people. Because it's not only we weren't ripped off, Canada was ripped off. Because these bills went through with no argument, no parliamentary debate. I was watching, I was crying, I was watching CPAC, you know. My family think I'm weird, okay? But I was watching it and I was so angry, I would get up and I would run around like, why? And I was like, oh, why did they, we'd go Paul Dewar, you know, we'd go certain ones that were saying no, and then, you know, and then there was the, you know, they would defeat the motion, they would defeat the motion, they would defeat the motion, and my heart was just breaking and breaking. I was like going, this is no good, this is no good, you know, jobs and act, with the jobs and, was it Skills Act or whatever? I'm like going, what's buried in that is our livelihood. What's buried in that is our survival. You know, and it's not even stated in there. He promised he wasn't going to touch anything, yet he went over and did it. And no wonder, you know, I mean, Chief Spence was just one village, was just one chief that was saying, look, this is industry and what is it doing to us? We have a lot. I have a friend who's on a reservation. They've had a boil water alert for 15 years. And so when the Prime Minister comes out and says, oh, we're going to give you so much money for wastewater management, which is just a drop in the bucket, by the way, because that's nothing compared to what really needs to be fixed. He understood the wastewater management problem. He understood our desire for clean water. You know, of course, he didn't expand on that or anything like that, but it's still not enough. You know, and we're just asking for equity. We're asking for a level playing ground. You know, I don't walk around and hang my head in shame saying, oh, everybody's paying for my livelihood, everyone's paying. That's such a fallacy. Okay, First Nation, your tax dollars is not paying for my life. Your tax dollars is not paying for my school. Okay, there is a First Nations trust fund, okay, for some of the money, some of the land. It's held in trust. It is that money that pays for all of our existence. It pays for our INAC, it pays for our schooling, it pays for our health. It is not your money. And so that fallacy that you've been believing, oh, they're just living off of us every time I go, and then they take a look at a Native and say, man, I just paid for you. You know, the worst day to be around, you know, on, you know, the First Nation is April 30th. When everyone's got, but you know, we're paying our taxes too. The thing is that we pay taxes. People think we don't pay taxes. We pay taxes. I used to go, my father had a home in Coquitlam, and we would go and we would pay the property taxes. We would go and pay the water taxes. We pay our school taxes. We pay taxes. Always pay taxes. And so that's a fallacy that, you know, you need to do some digging, and one of the political, I don't know, strategies, I guess, is to kind of to divert what the real issues are and create a fantasy and create something inside the general population and push that sort of fantasy belief so that people all of a sudden are all stirred up and they don't want to listen to what really is going on. And it's, you know, and we see the ploys, we see the play, we see what's going on, we understand what's going on. You know, and we're just saying, let's have teach-ins, let's have mob, let people understand what we're really fighting for, and what we really are looking for is equity. Health disparities. You know, I'm a nurse. I'm gonna be laying out my life, my career in healthcare. That is my calling. That is my purpose. Purpose, you know, is a future seeking to be made manifest. And that manifestation is that equity. I am all about equity. I am going to fight. I am going to fight. I don't know more. Further on, we are not going to give up. We're not going to go away. We are going to fight because, you know what? We are in Canada. We shouldn't have third world country conditions on our reserves. And, you know, I could go on about all the disparities, but I won't. And, you know, there's you know, suicide rates, there's healthy living, all of those things that, you know, I can't go into it, and I'm getting, my time is over, so I will quit right here. So thank you so much for your time and your paying attention and everything like that. Okay.